Public hearing is scheduled for 6:50 is called to order. Clerk will call the roll.
Dr. Estrop,
Here.
Mr. O'Neill,
Here.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes. Here.
Mr. Rue,
Here.
Mr. Copeland.
Yes. Has proper legal notice been given to the hearing?
Notice of a public hearing for the purpose of considering the proposed change in zoning for 0.18 acre located at 923 North Limestone Street from RS8 Medium Density Single Family District to CO1 Commercial Office District was published in the Springfield News and Sun, a newspaper of general circulation within the city. Attached here to is the true and correct copy of the legal notice published on February 26, 2023.
I move that the communication be ordered, received, recorded in the minutes, and filed.
Second.
Clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Dr. Estrop,
Yes.
Mr. Copeland.
Yes. Staff report.
Good evening, everyone. The applicant is requesting to rezone subject parcel from residential zoning district to an office district as they wish to continue use of property as a dental office. The structure on parcel was built as a residence in 1950s and was later remodeled for commercial office uses in the mid 1960s. The use as a dental office is a legal non-compliant use. Per regulations, if the dental office is vacant or not in use for over a year, it will require to be compliant with current regulations of RS8 district, and that would put limitations on the use of property. The Clark County Comprehensive Plan shows future character area as traditional neighborhood high intensity. The use as a dental office is permitted future use for the area, and as a small scale office and retail are considered secondary uses for the parcel. The rezoning from RS8 to CO1 is useful as it serves as a transitional area between residences to the west and more intensive commercial corridor of South Limestone Street. The proposed rezoning is compatible with surrounding land uses. South Limestone Street is classified as an existing state route by the Clark County Thoroughfare Plan. The office has existing parking and traffic circulation patterns. Return reports from city staff state no objection and recommend approval of the applicant's request to rezone subject parcel from RS8 to CO1 zoning district. The request was recommended for approval by the City Planning Board, and there were no objections or concerns from the public or the neighbors. Thank you.
Is there a motion to accept the report?
Question.
Okay.
Were there any objections at all filed?
No.
No? Thank you.
Anyone else? Is there a motion to file the notice?
Or motion to adjourn if there's no comment.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Dr. Estrop,
Yes.
Mr. Copeland.
Yes. The hearing scheduled for 6:55 is called to order. Clerk will call the roll.
Dr. Estrop,
Here.
Mr. O'Neill,
Here.
Ms. Phillips,
Here.
Mr. Rue,
Here.
Mr. Copeland.
Here. Has proper legal notice been given for this hearing?
Notice of a public hearing for the purpose of considering the proposed amendment to the CC2A District Development Plan located at the corner of St. Paris Pike and St. Paris Connector was published in the Springfield News Sun, a newspaper of general circulation within the city. Attached here too is the true and correct copy of the legal notice published on February 26, 2020.
I move that the communication be ordered, received, recorded in the minutes, and filed.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comment? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Rue, Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Dr. Estrop,
Yes.
Mr. Copeland.
Yes. Staff report.
The applicant is proposing a car wash at subject parcel. A previous amendment to the parcel was approved in December 2021. where a hotel was proposed on east portion of the site. The current plan is proposing a car wash and a restaurant in the remaining western portion of the parcel. The Clark County Comprehensive Plan shows future character area as commercial center. The original plan of 2014 for parcel was to house a hotel and 3 retail outlets. The applicant's proposal shows a car wash. The proposed amendment will create another automobile-oriented use along Bechtel Avenue, which is not recommended, as the shopping district is primarily for planned shopping centers such as restaurants, theaters, financial institutions, offices, retail of merchandise for personal or household consumption. Such uses are recommended. The north entryway or gateway to the Springfield community hopes to house retail or restaurant use rather than an automobile use such as gas station or car wash. The general intent of a shopping district is to encourage pedestrian and vehicular safety, making the proposed car wash not the best or highest use of a prime location. Return reports from city staff. The city manager's office has recommended denial. West 1st Street proposed car wash with zoning in place already has plans indicating similar development product that would serve customers and complement existing Goldwater car wash as Ultimate Shine's description of concept outline. City manager reviewed submitted under roof car wash concept and recommends denial. Applicant has failed to develop previous proposed plan developments plan under the CC2A zoning district. Planning and Zoning Division has recommended denial. A car wash is not the best use of land and is not recommended for the location. There is a note for the applicant. The automobile-oriented use, if approved by the City Commission, will require conditional use permit approval from the Board of Zoning Appeals. The overall staff recommendation is denial of applicant's request to amend the CC2A plan for a car wash. The applicant's request was recommended for approval by the Planning Board with a vote of 4-2. There were no questions or concerns from the general public. Thank you.
Any questions or comments?
Yeah, I have a comment. This is one of the opportunities, again, that we can look at this as a commission because this would be a change of use of the original design of the property. There was as you saw on the previous map, there's a hotel that I believe is or will be developed there. I would be concerned about putting a car wash on this property. I agree with the staff recommendation. I think there is other uses that could better that corridor. I would also be concerned with the traffic flow as well, as been highlighted to our commission. I will not be supporting this effort, approving this. I do encourage those that want to develop or put a nice car wash. I love a clean car, but I would encourage them to look for a different property in our area that would be more suited for a car wash.
I believe I heard you to say that virtually every staff member denied this request. Am I hearing you correctly?
The overall staff report is,
Yes,
recommendation is denial.
Were there other objections beyond the staff that were filed with you, or are there people in the audience who would wish to speak for or against this?
There were no objections.
Is there anyone who wants to speak against or against it?
You could go right to the microphone on either side and speak. There you go. Sorry about that. You wouldn't mind telling us your name and address for the record, please?
Sure. Sure. My name is Macy Downey. Address is 5721 Dragon Way, Suite 300, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45227. Is the presentation available? So just a little context, I'm Macy Downey. I'm with McBride Dale Clarion. We are the zoning and planning consultants on this project, helping out Ultimate Shine. If you want to go ahead and move on to the next slide, I'll try to keep this short. I think the request has been made pretty clear, looking to establish a car wash use. If you wouldn't mind going on to the next one. The main key point we want to highlight here is that our vacuums are under roof containing all nuisances such as debris, noise from customers, while also protecting the customers, very mutually beneficial. This is a new concept to the market, nothing like this in the area so far. Definitely an upscale business that this market has not seen yet. The traffic flow will be one way from the private drive. There will be no access directly on the right of way, and no variances are anticipated. Like they said, the conditional use is a factor we'll have to go after with the BZA. Wouldn't mind moving on to the next one. As far as architecture goes, hearing some of the comments from the staff, we have updated this to reflect that of a retail building. Cars go in and come out clean, but the outside is very well put together with stone, and EFS. Lighting will be contained. Plenty of transparency that's hard to find in car washes. Wouldn't mind moving on. And then lastly, before I turn it over to Jonathan, just wanted to go through quickly the analysis we did on this area and the character of this area. A very suburban style development fabric, larger stores, larger parking lots, not a ton of pedestrian facilities like sidewalks. So this is a very automobile oriented area, which obviously is great for car washes. There are plenty of drive-through uses and auto uses in this area already, spaced out along this corridor. There is an existing car wash. However, it definitely serves a different type of customer, one that is looking to wash a larger car, a very dirty car, someone who's looking to do it themselves. This is very different than that. There are other car washes in the city. However, we don't see competition as a bad thing. There are plenty of restaurants in the city. On this corridor itself, there are countless other restaurants. So car wash versus a car wash, restaurant versus restaurant. We kind of see those equally. And I know this corridor has lost a couple of the restaurants in this area, and we're, looking to provide a different use for the corridor here. But I'll go ahead and turn it over to Jonathan Yates real quick with Ultimate Shine so he can give you a business aspect.
Thank you for having me. My name is Jonathan Yates, 225 West First Street, Morristown, Tennessee, 374. If we could just kind of double click on a couple things that Macy said here, and sir, to your comments about the neighborhood hotel and the developers and seller of property here with us today as well. But we specifically designed this structure to minimize conflict between users. Like Macy said, basically this is a retail building where dirty cars happen to enter one side and clean cars happen. If you're a guest at this hotel, all you're going to see is a retail appearing structure with nice facades, stone, EFS, very high conformance with the surrounding property, including the tire store built on this corridor. By containing everything under roof, that eliminates the potential for the typical problems you see with car washing. There's another car wash about to go with former strip center. That is going to have the very traditional wash tunnel, exterior vacuums. We're going to be, if allowed, we would be completely contained. This eliminates the noise, even the vacuum producers that are typically outside to make that hum all, it's all contained under. So this is something we're rolling out in a number of select markets where we feel that got a viable location. Traffic counts support that. We've got retail synergy that's already there. I anticipate no conflict. If I was a guest at that hotel or said the developers are here, support what we're looking to do as well. And I don't see that as an issue. One other thing I would say is I drove the corridor just a few minutes ago. I noticed there was 3 closed restaurants, closed IHOP, White Castle appears to shut down, and there was another inline tenant space. It was also closed. For us, this is a $5-6 million project. It's not something we take lightly. The company I work for has built 140, 150 car washes at this point. To my knowledge, every single one of those is still open. We're now owned by a private equity company. Across that platform, they've got another 150 car washes. Every one of those is. This is an opportunity to take long-standing vacant dirt, do something right now in conjunction with the hotel, and continue to draw people towards that end of the corridor. Where look where the vacancies are. They're not out front. They're the Coles, and there's new development happening on this rear end. So with all that said, if we could advance one more slide, I'll speed this up and be brief. We do appreciate the recommendation from the Planning Council to allow this project. Something we didn't touch on depth there is that we're trying to make car washing as environmentally friendly as possible. We do recapture 85% of the water that we use in the process. All the soaps and chemistry, that type of thing is very environmentally friendly. We could advance one more time. So this is becoming somewhat outdated, but the trend lines just continue to proceed in this fashion. This is, the blue line represents the average vehicle user that washes at professional car washes, such as our facility. The other one that's going in Springfield versus the customers who wash in their driveway. So this is why we're making capital investments of this size in areas like this. It's because every day the rate of people that are looking to wash in a facility like this goes up. The amount of people that wash driveways. All that said, we appreciate everybody's time and respectfully ask for your approval of this project.
Mayor, I want to say it looks like a fantastic facility, high class. I would love to see it in Springfield. It would be an anchor in that property. That's why it would not be for a beautiful car wash like that in that area. I feel like once we place an automotive facility like the car wash or another tire store or something in there, then we're kind of hemming ourselves into what other uses could be in that development. That's my concern. It has nothing to do with the excellence of your presentation, the beautiful facility, and the new concept that you're wanting to introduce to our area, all of which I appreciate. But I'm just speaking to that choice of land, in my opinion, my personal opinion, as a commissioner, of that I would not want to see a car wash in that plot of land. I feel like that would restrict use in other developers in that property. That's what I'll say to that.
I certainly understand your point of view there, and like I said, we are joined by the developers here. The one thing I would say to counter that is that this specific concept is designed to exactly fit this need. If I had, my name is Jonathan, if I had Jonathan's restaurant next door, this building is a nice, attractive, retail-looking building, and if I'm being honest, it's got a nicer facade than many of the older improvements on that section of road, and again, we're containing the entire automotive-related process inside of the doors.
Where's your nearest location?
So we have several sites going in Columbus, site going in Dayton. The nearest site that's open today is probably Chillicothe, Ohio.
Okay.
We have a site in Zanesville open in the next couple weeks. And primarily based North Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia.
Thank you.
Copies of the presentation and exhibits.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak to this matter?
On the rest of this parcel, I've got it up here also, that this hotel we're talking about, are there permits pulled for that? The hotel that has been mentioned here, that I'm assuming is going over at the corner by the traffic signal, has there been permits pulled for that or plans presented or anything?
My understanding is they have submitted plans for that, but it has not advanced forward at this point. I know they were working on a couple other items that had to be signed off on the REA agreement for that property.
Now, the one that he's talking about right now, is that just going to be a car wash? He's mentioned a restaurant a couple of times here. I heard him say. This just for the car wash that we're talking about?
Well, this would approve, so this is a CC2A plan, development district. So what they're proposing is a change in the actual development plan. So if you look at the map up there, the one on the original shows 3 outlots in front of the hotel. What they're modifying here is they would have the hotel lot and then 2 outlots, one being for the car wash and then one being a restaurant use there, the 1.03 acres that you see, which would be to the north.
So that that's going to be possibly a restaurant.
Yes,
Okay.
that would be planned out as a second outlot that they're proposing as a restaurant.
Okay.
Well, the only comment that I do want to make on this is it's a great project, by the way. Number 2, this parcel, we have entertained rezoning this parcel at least 10 times, at least in my tenure. There's nothing that's concrete that wants to go here. I don't think we can just continue to sit and let it just sit because it's something that our dream doesn't fulfill. There's neighborhoods around it. There were no complaints about it from any of the neighbors that came forward. My concern is when we talked about what was going to happen at the IHOP, and then that got away, and that's been over 2-3 years ago, that he's right. Things are getting dated out there, and they're going to be having to tear things down. $1 million buildings are going to have to be torn down, just like at the other end. I guess I just have to be understanding what harm is this to the hotel if it does become in fruition, because we don't know that for sure. This gentleman's standing here with money in his hand, ready to break ground, and I'm concerned as to how many more projects are going to come by the wayside that we're just going to say, hell no, we're not doing that. We have this. We want something over here, but we don't know what we want. That's my concern. We don't know what we want. And we've had 3 or 4 good projects come our way there. And I think if Jim Pfeiffer were here tonight, he could tell you all about them because he was not able to get them home. But again, I think we just need to think about if this walks away, how long is it going to be before we get another $5 or $6 million project that's willing to go? And is the hotel object to have this there too?
I've not heard directly
I
from the
didn't
hotel.
That's my only concern.
Yeah.
I understand your concern, but I've been self-employed for a long time. Rob Russo is self-employed. It's tough to make it self-employed. Really is. And when you're going to put your own money on the ground, I think we need to look at that pretty hard.
Commission,
Sorry,
just to
didn't mean to
answer
take up too much
that,
time.
I think a big piece of the staff's concern is related to traffic. As we do know, there are traffic concerns along Bechtel. I understand it's internalized, but it's still a traffic concern for that specific quadrant. I know there were no specific owners that spoke out against this, but we have had that in the past with traffic concerns for the connector from the surrounding neighborhoods. And then second, again, a big piece of this is, you alluded to it, Commissioner, this is probably the 10th time this plan has changed. When is activity that's been promised from past plans going to be completed by the developer? One specific one is they were responsible for providing a screening on the adjacent property where Hobby Lobby sits today for the residents that live on St. Paris Connector. If you drive out there today, you're looking at a hill with dead trees in it. So again, how many times do we continually change the plan for a developer that has not fulfilled the promises that he's made those 9 other times that we've approved changes to his plan?
I have a request. You said there were 2 of your car washes now in Ohio, is that correct?
Yes, sir. And I
Would
would
you-
like to be
would you-
able to respond to a couple
Yeah,
of the
would
questions. when we
you,
get-
would you please send the addresses of those car washes to Mr. Heck so he
Absolutely.
can share that with all of us? I, for one, may want to make a trip to look at one of those. So if you would please send the addresses of those 2 car washes to Mr. Heck so he can share that information with all of us, I would greatly appreciate it.
About
Absolutely. If I could just really briefly address the traffic issue here. This is what we would be an oversized parcel. You can note the amount of green space that's shown on the conceptual plan. Car washes do, in this format, self-regulate on exit because only one car is at a certain stage of the tunnel at a time. Where car washes typically struggle is getting people through the queue and into the car wash. We have what I would consider to be super adequate stack. Particularly if you look at the, it used to be a Goo Goo car wash here, now it's a Take 5. We've got so much more room here to get ingress and egress and get vehicles efficiently to this lot in comparison to that lot. I truly believe, and I'm not saying this to make a project happen, we're not going to have a traffic concern on this. We've done so many of them, I can identify the problems. Frankly, we wouldn't pay this much for the lot or propose this expensive of a building pack. We thought. And again, as far as to the hotel, we spoke to further, but my background's in real estate appraisals and the highest and best use comment. I think something that gets used a lot, but such a big part of this is it's financially feasible. You know, it's one thing to say that, you know, we would like to have such and such use here, but right now we've torn down countless 4 or 5 to 10,000 square foot restaurants. COVID hit them hard. The Golden Crows, the Ryans, the IHOP, just tore down a Ruby Tuesday in Roanoke, Virginia. This is a use that's seeing an increase in volume, and you're seeing that here in Springfield with all the applications.
Name and address for the record, please.
Yes, my name is John Van Sickle. I'm one of the members of Zuber Crossing LLC, which is the owner of the 4.3 acre lot, and want to address a couple of the comments and maybe give a little bit of a history. We've owned this, the predecessors owned this since 2004. Seen a lot of changes occur up and down the Bechtel Avenue corridor. In 2015, we were fortunate to have some activity, which brought in the Hobby Lobby, Dollar Tree, and the IHOP across the store, across the street there. And when this thing was originally designed out, it was included a particular proposal that was occurred then, maybe looked at in 2015 as being possible. Well, we don't live in the same world that we did then. COVID has shown that. We went through a major recession in 2008. So we're trying to find a good current use for the property that's compatible. We look down the street, like the IHOP has been closed now for 4 or 5 years. We just saw the White Castle close. And I know TGFI, right. So having a restaurant in this day and age is very difficult, and particularly with the passing of COVID. So we've got to look to what the current and highest and best use is going to be. And we believe this is compatible with that particular parcel. We've had our engineers, our design people look at this to come up basically with this plan to do that. We do have the hotel prepared basically to close. We've been waiting on another signatory on the amendments to the RA that made this necessary. I talked with them yesterday. They're going to supposedly have that to me. They're going to sign that on Friday, hopefully have that to me, so we can go ahead and get the actual lot split and those things done and proceed toward a closing. So these are things that are actual reality that are happening. You know, you don't have significant investors come along and want to buy your property. We've talked to a number of different restaurants that are up and down that strip and other areas. They're not expanding. They're not looking for that. And the other unique thing about this property is it is at the very northern end of Bechtel Avenue. You're not going to get people drive. We drove by there today, and once you get past that bridge, that's it. There's nothing else on the other side of that. So that's kind of
There's a golf course.
there's a golf course, but you know, I'm talking about commercial
I'm sorry,
activity.
wrap up.
Commercial activity, but you know, like I say, I agree with Commissioner O'Neill's comment. It's just, you know, you got to look at really what's there. We've tried to do some different things, and we're trying to address a lot of different issues. I know with Brian's comments about the issues on the landscape mounding, we've got a plan. We've got the trees ordered. We're planning on getting those things planted in April, May, as soon as the weather turns. But part of the problem was we planted trees there, and there are evergreen trees. There are some that are dead that need to be pulled, but they finally grew. But the problem was, because of where it is, you've got to have access to water.
Could you wrap up, please?
So that was basically, I was just addressing Brian's question, but if
I
you got
have
any
one question
questions.
of you. You're the developer. You have a hotel ready to go?
We have a hotel ready to go.
Has this hotel voiced any objection to
No.
this?
No,
Okay.
they're
That's what I wanna
aware of
make
this,
sure.
and this is what we're trying to do.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And thanks for your patience over the years trying to get this developed, because I've been through it with you the entire time.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Anyone else want to speak to this matter? Need your name and address for the record.
Yeah, my name is John Flahos. I live in Powell, Ohio. My address is 10085 Wellington Boulevard. I've been on this project for over 20 years, okay? And I know what you're thinking, but you have to understand, when somebody comes to a location and say they want to put something there, what they do is they have a whole team of people. And they don't just come in and say, here, we'll put $6 million in there. They do a lot of looking. They have a whole team that comes in. What's your traffic count? What's this? What's that? You mentioned, there were 10 different people that were going to come here. We didn't send them away. You know why they left? Because they didn't like the location. It didn't make sense for them. So when you say, well, we want a restaurant, it doesn't matter what you want. It matters, is somebody going to come here, put their hard-earned money on the table, and will all the numbers work? If the numbers don't work, it doesn't matter what you want or what I want. I mean, I've been on this for 20 years. 20 years. And you know why they're not there? Because we are down to the center. We are back there. Do some people come there and say, well, we want to build this? We've had lots of people come, but you know what happens? They bring their team in. They look at it. They run numbers. And they say, you know what? Thank you very much. See ya. So when everybody's sitting here saying, well, we want this, and we want that, and we want that, it doesn't matter what you want. It depends on what people are going to put their hard-earned money on the table. And when you're talking about this car wash, this is not some cheap car wash. They're coming in here with $6 million to do a hell of a job for this city. And it would be a car wash that everybody in this room would be happy to have. And when you're talking about the hotel, thank God we have a hotel. And the hotel is going there. They're going to have the shovel in the ground probably within 2 weeks. So, and we have 5 lots up there where Hobby Lobby is. And we're going to try to develop those.
Could you please wrap up? I think you made your point, I think, right?
Okay, thank you.
you.
Anyone else? Okay. We'll move on.
Adjourn
We-
this?
We don't vote on this tonight.
Adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Second?
Been moved and seconded. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Estrad?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes. So that's all we have for, so we're ready to go to the city commission. We'll go with this. All right.
And I'm right next to you.
The city commission meeting is called to order. Clerk will call the roll.
Dr. Estrad?
Here?
Mr. O'Neill?
What are we doing?
Just
Roll.
attendance.
Starting our meeting.
Here.
Ms. Phillips?
I gotta know what we're doing.
Mr. Rue?
Here.
Mr. Copeland?
Here, please rise for the invocation and pledge of allegiance. Our God, we're grateful for the opportunity to make decisions that are important to the people of Springfield. Help us to make good ones and help improve the community in a significant way. In your name we pray. Amen. Flag, United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Motion to
So moved.
Second.
question. Roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Dr. Estrad?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Amending the zoning map of Springfield, Ohio by rezoning 0.18 acre at 923 North Limestone Street, Springfield, Ohio, from RS8 Medium Density Single Family Residential District to CO1 Commercial Office District. Approving an amendment to the existing CC2A District Development Plan for 4.393 acres at the corner of St. Paris Pike and St. Paris Connector to modify the planned building layout. Vacating the first alley east of South Yellow Spring Street from Fair Street South to the first east-west intersecting alley. Authorizing the city manager to accept a 2023 Energized Community Grant through the Northeast Ohio Public Energy Council, NOPEC, in an amount up to $67,205 to be used for implementation of energy savings or energy infrastructure measures. Authorizing the city manager to execute a grant agreement for the acceptance of said grant, and authorizing the city manager, law director, and the director of finance to do all things necessary for the acceptance of the grant and to comply with all relevant local, state, and federal legal requirements. Authorizing the city manager to enter into amendment number 1 to the lodging tax revenues agreement with the Greater Springfield Area Convention and Visitors Bureau Incorporated. Authorizing the city manager to enter into an employment incentive agreement with La Torte Dolce LLC to incentivize expansion and renovation of a food retail establishment located at 3640 North Fountain Avenue to create employment and new investment in the city. Authorizing the city manager, finance director, and law director to do all things necessary to implement the said employment incentive. Authorizing the city manager to enter into an employment incentive agreement with Preston Company LLC to incentivize the acquisition and operation of a food retail establishment located at 101 South Fountain Avenue to create employment and new investment in the city. Authorizing the city manager, finance director, and law director to do all things necessary to implement the said employment incentive agreement. Authorizing the city manager to enter into an LPA Federal Local LET project agreement number 38897 between the city and the Ohio Department of Transportation to provide the city with eligible costs of up to a maximum sum of $918,000 for the CLA Decorative Lights Project, PID number 118629. Authorizing an expenditure up to $584,500 to be used as matching funds in connection with the agreement to be entered into with the Ohio Department of Transportation and authorizing the city manager, law director, and finance director to do all things they deem necessary to implement said agreement. Authorizing the city manager to enter into an LPA Federal Local LET Project Agreement number 38900 between the city and the Ohio Department of Transportation to provide the city with eligible costs of up to a maximum sum of $2,264,524 for the CLA Springfield Miscellaneous Resurfacing Fiscal Year 27 project, PID number 118647. Authorizing an expenditure up to $928,775 to be used as matching funds in connection with the agreement to be entered into with the Ohio Department of Transportation, and authorizing the city manager, law director, and finance director to do all things they deem necessary to implement said agreement. Authorizing the city manager to enter into an LPA Federal Local LET Project Agreement number 38899 between the city and the Ohio Department of Transportation to provide the city with eligible costs of up to a maximum sum of $1,580,000 for the CLA Bechtel Avenue Sidewalk Project, PID number 118643, authorizing an expenditure up to $395,000 to be used as matching funds in connection with the agreement to be entered into with the Ohio Department of Transportation, and authorizing the city manager, law director, and finance director to do all things they deem necessary to implement said agreement. Authorizing the city manager to enter into an LPA Federal Local LET Project Agreement number 38901 between the city and the Ohio Department of Transportation to provide the city with eligible costs of up to a maximum sum of $872,000 for the CLA Bike Hub Project, PID number 118826, authorizing an expenditure up to $218,000 to be used as matching funds in connection with the agreement to be entered into with the Ohio Department of Transportation, and authorizing the city manager, law director, and finance director to do all things they deem necessary to implement said agreement. Authorizing the city manager to enter into an LPA Federal Local LET Project Agreement number 38898 between the city and the Ohio Department of Transportation to provide the city with eligible costs of up to a maximum sum of $1,704,524 for the CLA Springfield Miscellaneous Resurfacing Fiscal Year 26 project, PID number 118635, authorizing an expenditure up to $605,792 to be used as matching funds in connection with the agreement to be entered into with the Ohio Department of Transportation, and authorizing the city manager, law director, and finance director to do all things they deem necessary to implement said agreement. Authorizing the tuck pointing project at the wastewater treatment plant from McDaniels Construction Corporation Incorporated for an amount not to exceed $211,123.71 through Sourcewell pursuant to the Sourcewell Contract Purchasing Cooperative Program in accordance with the provisions of Section 9.48 of the Ohio Revised Code. Authorizing the issuance of a purchase order for the purchase of 2 stainless steel dump bodies, including bed covers, road temperature sensors, from K.E. Rose Company for an amount not to exceed $237,990. Authorizing the acceptance of various donations in support of Culture Fest 2020.
I want to say that we thank Jill for doing that.
Jill, you didn't cough.
Are
You
there any
didn't cough
questions or
once.
comments on first readings?
I missed some of it, Jill. Could you
Sure.
read those over again?
Tell me which one.
No, thank you very much.
Anyone else?
I do have a couple questions for real. The item number 091-23, I'm very pleased to see it on the agenda. Can you tell us what this grant money will potentially be used for? You don't have to tell specific, but what's the staff looking at?
Yeah, so Commission, this is a grant that is provided to us from NOPEC. NOPEC is the supplier of electricity, the aggregator for our community. One of the things that they do as part of the program is they provide funds to the community, specifically the municipality, for energy-related project, energy infrastructure projects, anything that would be implemented that generates energy savings. And so the amount of this grant is approximately $67,000. We've received these now for several years, and we've done projects like roof replacements and lighting upgrades and those things to help, again, achieve energy savings or other energy infrastructure projects. And so we have not determined yet what our project is at this time. We will work with our facilities team, finance, legal, city manager's office, and so forth to develop what that project would be. Fortunately, it's been additional money we're able to leverage to projects and programs that maybe we were already implementing,
Great.
which is helpful.
Thank you. The other question I have is, over all of these items that are labeled LPA, federal, local, with the Ohio Department of Transportation, specifically item 094-23, 095-23, 096-23, 097-23, and 098-23. This is a lot of money. Can you give us a description of the kinds of projects that this will support?
Yeah, so this is specifically these LPA federal project agreements are set up for funding that we apply for through our Transportation Coordinating Committee. So they are provided the funding that comes down through Federal Highway and ultimately the Ohio Department of Transportation. And they put out applications to the community partners, the organizations that apply for infrastructure projects, roadways, et cetera. And so these are agreements putting in place funding that we have received through the various programs that TCC manages. The county engineer is also a great benefiter of these funds as well. And so a variety of projects are taking place from here, from decorative streetlight replacing on South Fountain and South Limestone, from essentially the railroad tracks down to Pleasant. The lighting is obsolete, and so we're going to replace those with LED decorative lighting throughout those two corridors. You'll see two different items on here for various resurfacing projects. One of those projects is for shave and paves of streets East Main from Spring to Greenmount, and Selma Road from Spring to the Corp line. Another one is Bechtel Avenue, railroad tracks to 41, and Villa Road, Durr Road to Middle Urbana, with various project years. Another project, ironically enough, it was mentioned tonight in a public hearing, but for sidewalks on Bechtel Avenue, for both sides of the roadway. There would be sidewalks installed from Hillcrest all the way down to Walmart. The city would actually install, because it's not on the federal aid system, we would install sidewalk on Hillcrest up through Meyer to the existing sidewalk that comes around from 41 to create more pedestrian connectivity and so forth for that corridor. And then the final project is a bike hub that would be placed in the general vicinity of the Heritage Center parking lot. That bike hub would include restrooms and kiosks and just a place to stop for cyclists that are traversing the bike trails in our community. So again, this is a great opportunity to leverage additional funds. These programs are typically set up as 80-20, so 80% federal funding, 20% local. There are caps on that 80%, so some of our match will be higher than 20% on given projects. But again, it's a great way to leverage federal dollars back into our community, because those are our tax dollars too that go to the federal and state level. Let's leverage them back for projects in Springfield.
All great projects, and I appreciate your explanation, and boy, am I glad to see them on the agenda.
You want to just highlight what some of those timelines are so people aren't looking for that next year?
Yeah, so as an example, the various resurfacing that I talked about, Bechtel and Villa the earliest they could start is July of 2025. East Main and Selma, July of 2026. The sidewalks, I believe, is about the same timeline, 26. The bike hub is calendar year 27. And then the street lighting is actually 2026 to into 2027. So these are several years out, but there's a lot of design and engineering that goes in, and these LPA agreements allow us to start working towards getting the design and engineering necessary in place to actually big construction projects.
Okay? Okay, so Jill now gets to vote on.
Mhm.
Okay, let's proceed with second readings.
Ending the sign district overlay map of Springfield, Ohio as adopted in ordinance number 10317 by amending 11 acres at 4700 South Charles Pike, Springfield, Ohio, for manufacturing sign district commercial highway sign.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Estrad?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Jeanette Industries LLC, doing business as Cut to Perfection Lawn and Snow Removal Services for weed cutting and lot clearing services as needed by the city for an amount not to exceed $50,000.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Dr. Estrad?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with ET's Lawn Maintenance and Landscaping LLC for weed cutting and lot clearing services as needed by the city for an amount not to exceed $50,000.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? The audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Estrad?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Four Corners Property Management LLC for weed cutting and lot clearing services as needed by the city for an amount not to exceed $50,000.
To adopt.
Moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Dr. Estrad?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Lewis and Roebuck Services LLC for weed cutting and lot clearing services as needed by the city for an amount not to exceed $50,000.
Move to adopt.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Estrad?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Gary Gilbert Jr., doing business as Gilbert Lawn Service for weed cutting and lot clearing services as needed by the city for an amount not to exceed $50,000.
Move to adopt.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Estrad?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Mike Lawn and More LLC for weed cutting and lot clearing services as needed by the city for an amount not to exceed $50,000.
Move to adopt.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission?
I feel like all our lawns are cut now, so let's move on. No, I'm kidding. That's my comment.
From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Dr. Estrad?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Confirming purchases and the obtaining of services for the city and providing payments therefore, and declaring it an emergency therein.
So moved.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Dr. Estrad?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into amendment number 1 to the agreement with OMAC Hauling Incorporated for abatement and nuisance condition services as needed by the city, to increase the agreement in an amount not to exceed $40,000 for a total amount not to exceed $90,000 and declaring an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into amendment number 1 to the contract with Tony Smith, doing business as Tony Smith Wrecking and Trucking for demolition services, to increase the contract in an amount not to exceed $120,000 for a total amount not to exceed $520,000 and declaring it an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Majors Enterprises Incorporated for the 2023 miscellaneous water line replacement project for an amount not to exceed $1,297,700.07 and declaring an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission?
I was wondering if we might, where in general these are going to occur, is it all over the city?
Yes, commissioners. So primarily this is in the Lane Addition, which is the west side of Burnett Road there, the old community hospital area. And then on High Street, we will deal with high main break replacement areas as part of this project as well.
Very good. Thank you.
Brian, what are the dates on that project?
Assuming award is made tonight, we will work to have this project in 2023. So
Awesome. Thank you.
assuming supply chain.
Anyone else? Clerk, call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Majors Enterprises Incorporated for the Broadway Utility Upgrade Project for an amount not to exceed $383,773.01 and declaring it an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Confirming and approving change order number 2 to the contract between the city and Majors Enterprises Incorporated for the 2022 miscellaneous sewer replacement project to decrease the contract in an amount not to exceed $18,516.67 for a total amount not to exceed $990,270.30 and to extend the project completion date to March 16, 2003, authorizing the city manager to execute said change order number 2 and declaring it an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission?
Again, is there a specific area we're working on, or is it just all over the city in terms of sewerage?
This was last year's program. Chris, do you want to speak to exactly where this was? And I'll point out this was actually a deduct, so that's always a positive when we're able to.
Those deducts.
Commissioner, this was last year's sewer line replacement projects. We were on Rogers Drive. We were on East Main over around the old Shamrock Bowling Alley. Stanton Avenue, I think everyone saw right up by Limestone, was disrupted for a while. And then we just did some work down in Vets Park where we did some combined sewer overflow work. And this final change order, there were 18 items on it, but the big deducts were some curb that we didn't have to do and some pipe that we realized we weren't going to have to remove.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Anyone else? Clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the purchase of body-worn cameras, including all related hardware, accessories, software, subscriptions, and training from Motorola Solutions Incorporated for an amount not to exceed $385,080 through the Ohio Department of Administrative Services pursuant to the Ohio's Cooperative Purchasing Act in accordance with provisions of Section 5.04 of the Ohio Revised Code and declaring it an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission?
I'm going to make, have a comment or question.
Go ahead.
Otis Williams, 1627.
Just a minute, Otis.
Just a
I've got,
Okay, I didn't see
got
you.
comments first. I would like Brian or the chief to speak to this and how it's being funded. how much we're paying, how much we're being granted in.
Yes, as far as the funding piece, I'll take that. So the state of Ohio, through their body worn camera grant program, provided the city with $162,220. As you saw, the total purchase price is over $385,000. So we will make up that difference of over $200,000+ to move forward with the program. One of the things we looked at, with receiving 162,220, do we look at doing a smaller program or a pilot program to start this? And at the end of the day, we decided no. We wanted to move full force ahead with our body worn camera program, and working with our CPAT, the Community Police Advisory Team, and other community groups on advancing this project forward. It's a big cost. Certainly glad we were able to leverage 162,000 of it from other funds outside of just the local dollars, but it's an important project and an important program to advance forward for us as an organization. So
And does this put a camera on each one of our officers?
I'll have Allison touch on just the program and what the plans are on deployment of these.
Also, Chief Elliott, if you could just talk about how difficult that process was to obtain that grant and how competitive that was.
Good evening, and thank you, commissioners. Thank you, Mayor Copeland. It was definitely a process. We started this almost 2 years ago now, I think, and it has been, we've applied a couple times. We've had to amend the grant information. We're still working through our policies and procedures because we know that we have to be very mindful. We want to be very transparent to the community and to our division, but we also want to make sure that we are mindful of our community that we serve in very sensitive situations. So that has been a process that we've had to work through. We are purchasing 115 body worn cameras currently and all the accessories that it will take. There will be spare cameras available for administrators who are out on certain calls and things like that. So it's going to be a process, and it has been a process working through that, making sure that we have everything covered as far as our policies go. And again, being transparent. And we are very grateful that the city has assisted us with this project as well as the grant funding that we've received, because as we have talked about, we have worked through this for several years in hopes of getting them, and now they're coming. But again, that's going to take a couple of months before implementation.
Chief,
Yes, sir.
So this will equip all of our uniform officers
Yes,
who
sir.
are on the street, is that correct?
Yes, sir. Every single
Good.
uniform officer will have one. Yes,
All
sir.
right. In the development of the policies and procedures that go along with the purchase of all of this hardware, will there be a chance for public involvement, for the public to participate in fact, formulating those policies?
We have worked through, Mr. Heck and I have had conversations on that, and with our Community Police Advisory Team, we've also been consulting with them. To get this grant, we had to provide a policy, and we had to start that policy. We are part of the Ohio Collaborative. Springfield PD is, we're a top tier as far as belonging to the Ohio Collaborative, and part of that is having a body-worn camera policy. So several years ago, we already worked into developing that before we even implement anything. So that has been a very thoughtful and mindful process.
Yeah, and I'll add to that, even in these couple years, there's tweaks and stuff that have to be made because of the technology and so forth. So we plan to work with the Community Police Advisory Team to work through some of those modifications and changes and look at that final policy before the actual deployment of the cameras.
And that Community Police Advisory Team, the meetings of that group are public meetings, am I not correct?
That is correct.
They are open for any member of the public to attend and listen to the discussion and debate off comment, I would assume, much like we do here.
Yes, that is correct. And there is that opportunity for additional public input through that process. I do want to say, again, Allison hit on it. It's going to take some months to get this. One, we don't know yet when the vendor will be able to provide us everything to get the camera program running. We want to finalize the policies and procedures before we deploy the cameras, and there's going to be some training that has to take place for our officers because they've not used this technology before. And I will say this technology works hand in hand with our in-car camera system that we purchased last year, new. And so it works with that. It interacts with the cruisers and can be set on when it comes on and goes off and so forth. So we'll work through all that again with you, the police advisory team, and others as we work to deploy this tool for our community and for our police department.
Well, congratulations on a great first step forward. I know the grant was a lot of work. I know the whole idea of formulating the policies and procedures with the training that must accompany that will take some time, and we would prefer, at least I'll speak for myself, let's do it right. Let's take the time that's necessary to make sure we're making good use of this tool like we do everything else.
Yes, sir.
So congratulations.
Thank you.
I just had one more question on the sustainability cost. Have we thought about that piece as well? Because I know before, with Chief Graff, because before becoming a city commissioner, that was a big piece that I questioned. Why do we not have body cameras for our officers? And he went into great detail to explain that to me. And one of those reasons was the sustainability.
Yeah,
Have we looked at that?
we have,
Okay.
and certainly you'll see in the 2024 budget when we bring, there's going to be an ongoing cost.
Nice. Thank
There's
you.
going to be personnel associated
Yeah.
with this program. There's going to be maintenance.
storage.
There's going to be software. There's going to be just the hosting. Because you can imagine video creates pretty large files, and as they start to add up, it's a lot of storage. And so we're going to use cloud-based servers and so forth that helps minimize those costs, but there's still ongoing costs that we're going to see. That was part of what we asked for when we applied to help fund maybe the first couple years of the program, and the state ultimately they're paying for a portion of the equipment. That's it.
Thank you.
Okay, now you want to speak, Otis? Name it. Well, I'm just doing what I'm told.
Otis Williams, 1627 Yorkshire Court.
And just for people in the audience, when you come, our understanding is you have 3 minutes to address the city, and we want you to state your name and address for the record when you come.
Get
Okay.
that. You didn't hear me?
Yeah.
I agree with the purchasing of the cameras. It's good for the city. And I've been asked the question, so Mr. Phillips been asked the question too, about the surveillance cameras going up in the city sometime. I want to know if somebody can address that. So if somebody asks me again, I'll have some kind of reply to give them. And I am part of the CPAT organization. So
Yeah, I believe the camera system you're referring to is the Flock camera system that is supposed to help us with hotspot policing and so forth. We're still waiting to take possession of those cameras. I don't believe they're in yet. And so we're waiting on that. But the idea around that is to be able to strategically place those cameras in areas of high crime and so forth to help as we look to mitigate and reduce specifically the violent crime that we're seeing in our community. I know as we get closer to deployment, we'll work and talk through CPAT and so forth, showing kind of the maps and the trends and so forth so that we're placing these in areas that are, again, high crime, specifically around violent crime, so that we can start to squash some of that in our community to protect and serve our residents, our neighborhoods where these crimes are occurring.
one more. How many of them is it going to be? I don't want to know where they at because somebody be jumping on my back. Y'all be saying I told somebody something. I don't want to know where they at. I want to know how many they might.
I believe approximately around 35 total cameras.
Anyone else? Clerk will call the roll.
Dr. Estra?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a consulting and services agreement January 1, 2023, December 31, 2023 with Mapsys Incorporated for computer consulting services in connection with the computer software system in use in the Clark County Municipal Court clerk's office for an amount not to exceed $100,000, confirming and approving related expenditures occurred from January 1, 2003 to the passage of this ordinance and declaring an emergency therein.
So moved.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Dr. Estra?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the fiscal officer to create a super blanket purchase order as authorized in resolution number 6152 and declaring it an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Dr. Estrom?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
That concludes the agenda items.
What?
That concludes the agenda items.
Yes. Anything else to come before us from commissioners?
Just to unfortunately want to again express my deepest sympathy for the parents and children of the schools in Tennessee. It's a superintendent, anybody's worst nightmare. And we continue to see it throughout this country. And apparently we have no will to do anything about it. And that to me is incredibly unfortunate for our society and specifically for our children. But we just don't have the guts to get it done.
I agree with you very strongly. Thank you.
Same.
Anyone else? Any others? Commission? Anybody in the audience want to address us? You sure? Okay.
Move to adjourn.
Anybody want to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Clerk will call the roll.
Dr. Estrom?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?